I thought it'd be a fun idea to start a Pokemon business with my 9-year-old son. I'm going to take you through some of the lessons learned I've had over the past 3 years, growing our little hobby business, our little fun business, into a 6-figure side business. So we recently hit 100K in revenue per year, which in the last 365 days, which is a big deal for us. It was a milestone that sort of made me pretty excited, kind of enthused, but I wanted to share some of the things I've learned over going from like ripping some packs with my son to running like a full-fledged side business. My name is Ryan. My 9-year-old got me into Pokemon, and I've got pretty deep. I know the Sword and Shield Pokemon and the Scarlet and Violet Pokemon much better than I know the Gen 1 or Gen 2 Pokemon, the base 151 guys. We run a 6-figure Pokemon business online here in Canada on the East Coast, and these are the things I've learned. The first thing I learned is the attention span of 8, 9, 10, and 11-year-olds. They can wax and wane very quickly. So you probably noticed by our video releases that, sometimes we have a lot, sometimes there's a lull. And that's part of what 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, that's what happens. Their interest waxes and wanes, especially in Pokemon. Like sometimes it's Roblox, sometimes it's Beyblades, and it just changes. And you have to be ready for that. So if you're starting a business with your son or daughter, I would say, expect changes in interest over the course of time. Number 2, you'll get condescending questions about your Pokemon business from other adults. You'll get it from friends, family, people you meet, other parents. It is a great way to weed out negative people, but people will ask you that awkward question in, a formal setting, or you're at a dinner party. They'll ask it sometimes in a condescending way, and it's awkward. Like, why, right? Let you judge the quality of people, and you have to be proud of it, right? It's something you're doing with your son. It's exciting, it's interesting, and it's something that's teaching him a lot of lessons about what it is to run a business. And I think that's a valuable thing to know. It will raise eyebrows for people who don't know much about Pokemon, don't know much about the collecting industry or the TCG industry. It's going to happen. You'll have to face it. Number 3, you will meet some of the best and some of the worst people in the Pokemon collecting hobby. You'll face things like chargebacks, thieves, if you're doing in-person vending. You'll face scammers. You'll face, people trying to pass off fake cards, like peddling fake cards. Encounter ungrateful people. So you'll give them, you'll buy their collection, and, they'll be mad about it. You'll encounter people who are money grubbers, and you'll probably see a lot of those guys online selling cards as well. They're only focused on the money, and it's important to have money focus, but when it's only, you can smell it, right? And the other thing is, you will meet the best people. You'll meet people who are so generous. You'll meet enthusiastic players. You'll meet enthusiastic collectors. You'll meet new collectors. You'll meet collectors who are returning. You'll meet collectors who have to sort of exit the hobby for a little bit. The returning collectors are awesome. And you'll meet people who are just entertained by it. You'll meet parents who are doing it just for the quality time with their son or daughter. So you meet some of the best and some of the worst if you run this hobby business. Number 4, you'll have to explain to your 11-year-old that we didn't actually make $100,000. You have to explain them the difference between revenue and profit, which not always the easiest thing to discuss with 11-year-olds. So he's asking you, did we make 100K this year? And well, make versus have, very different things. Number 5, if you're running this as a side hustle, side thing, you will not have time to do everything. You'll not have time to do the work that's required to be always profitable. Everything from, the trade-ins you get, everything from getting inventory that arrived up on the website, you're just not going to have time. I have to squeeze it in. It's not my full-time job. It's not, as a dad, there's a lot of things that are not Pokemon. It's a lot of times you'll have a backlog of things that you need to do. You'll have people who you need to pick up product. You'll have things that prioritize over this, and you're going to run out of time. That's what's going to happen. Number 6, you will make buying mistakes, which means you may buy a collection from someone. They'll, swear up and down it's mint, it's clean, it's light play, and you get it, and there's creases, there's damage, and because of that time issue I mentioned, maybe you don't have time to look at the condition of every card, and you sort of have to trust people. I've made buying mistakes. Recently I bought a collection. It was about $1,600, and as I'm going through it, I'm realizing that everything is like heavy play. There's damage and things that they marked near mint. Just a complete mess. So you're going to make buying mistakes. It happens. It's part of the balance between your time and your energy and whether you can get it done. So it's going to happen. Number 7, even if you do establish distribution, you will not get a good supply of the good Pokemon product for a long time. Now, distribution is a ladder. You have to buy a little, buy more, buy some junk before you can really buy what you can sell, what you want. And then even at that point, you need to also continually to buy stuff that you don't want to buy. And I'll say battle decks, league decks, collection boxes, cases and cases of collection boxes, things that are hard to sell, things that are not as liquid. You're going to have to keep buying them, and you're going to have to find ways to outlet them. Sometimes you're not going to get allocated enough of a product that you want. Even the Charizard UPCs, I didn't get as many as I wanted. 151, example, every special release, for some reason, you can spend like, $15,000 on a regular release, but when it comes to allocation for a special release, you get like $6,000 or like half of what you normally order. Stuff like that, you're not going to get the good products all the time. And the allocation of bad products is going to hurt you. It hurts. You'll be, asked to take cases and cases of, the binders with the pack in them that they're just not liquid. They're great in the store, but if you're not online, a lot of those things, it's hard to sell. So even though you have distribution, you're not going to get the products that you want to sell. The number 8 thing about the Pokemon industry is your biggest clients, your biggest customers, they're not parents with kids. Your biggest customers is 25 to 35-year-olds who are being entertained. Instead of them going to the bar and drinking away their money, they're playing in tournaments, they're collecting with their binder, and they are enjoying the hobby. So the most of your customers are not going to be parents. Parents are going to be such a small fraction of your customer base. And you see, you think Pokemon is going to be parents buying for kids. Probably only 10% of our sales are for parents buying for kids. The 10th item that I recommend, be always selling on multiple platforms. So we have our Shopify website. We've done some Whatnot in the past. We've done some rip and ships. We've done some eBay. We've done some Facebook Marketplace, and we've vended. You got to be selling across a lot of platforms to be successful. And that requires an extra amount of management, inventory, knowing when something goes out of stock on eBay to remove it from stock from your website, things like that. You got to do it. You got to sell across multiple platforms, and you got to market. You have to be able to be on Instagram, be on Facebook. TikTok is kind of, I don't understand. TikTok's not working for me. But that's the places you really got to, especially here in Canada. You got to do Facebook, you got to do Instagram. The 11th thing you got to focus on is you got to do continuous accounting. Oh, boring, right? You have to make sure that you record your sales, record your purchases, always be managing the math of what you're doing. Taking your receipts, organizing your receipts. Do not wait until the end of a quarter, the end of the year to do this. It's something you should be continuously doing so that you don't have to worry about it. At the end of the year, you have a spreadsheet with everything in it, and bang, do your taxes, bang, you know exactly how much you spent, bang, you know your revenue, you know your expenses, and it'll help you with your taxes. And that's the thing about a business, right? Like a side business. There's certain things that you're being entertained with, of course. You're enjoying the process, but there's some tax advantages you take care of that'll chop some of the taxes you pay down on your regular salary down. So definitely make sure you're accounting continuously. It's very important. The 12th thing I've learned is that vending, being in person, bringing your cards in person, selling with cash, it completely screws up your inventory. Completely screws up your inventory. It's a huge amount of work. So either you're vending or you're selling online. It's very hard to manage in both places. Very, very difficult. So you go and vend, your inventory is messed up. And that's one of the reasons why we don't vend as much, because we have such a huge inventory. If I brought things, it'd be very hard to manage inventory over the course of a vending session. It's fun. I do like vending, but that's one of the things about vending, is that it really messes with your inventory. The 13th thing I've learned about running a Pokemon business with my 8, 9, 10, and now 11-year-old is that it makes it hard for them to separate the value of a card from the worth, the desire for a card. My son, Kai, you know him as TKK Collector, as he's opening packs, he's looking at value a little too much for my comfort. And whether it's cringe or not, unfortunately, value is part of the Pokemon industry. But when you're running a business, he also has this in top of his mind about value, and it kind of takes away from that joy of opening packs. I saw a video online, maybe an 8 or 9-year-old opens up a card pack and gets so excited over a Giratina V, whereas just a regular art, so excited. Kai opens the same pack and he's like, oh, V. Oh, hit V, nice. But it's not as exciting. So when he has so much knowledge of the value of cards and he looks at these collections and the difference, it makes it hard for him as an 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old to separate value from worth. From the, I needed this, I wanted this. It makes it hard for them. The 14th thing, don't do it if you don't enjoy it. One of the things is, some things that you do with this business, it becomes work, right? It's, I gotta get all these cards done. It becomes work, some pieces, it becomes work, but you have to enjoy the rest of it. If you don't enjoy doing it, you're not gonna wanna do it. 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old is not gonna do a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to work. And I'm not talking about, carrying booster box cases around. I'm talking about, like, he'll, help open packs. He'll help, break down product. He'll help sort some cards sometimes. But when it comes to updating inventory, managing spreadsheets, paying invoices, managing cash flow, that's stuff you as a parent, you'd have to take care of yourself, and it becomes a little bit work, right? It becomes a little bit work, but you have to enjoy doing it, or you shouldn't try. The 15th thing is, a lot of people collect Pokemon cards for a hobby. They actually just enjoy the act of collecting it. There's so much noise on YouTube about value, about investing, about this and that. There's a lot of people who just like having a binder, getting a card, putting the card in the binder, flipping through the binder. Those people are not vocal on YouTube. They don't get clicks on YouTube, but those people exist. And that means there's a buyer for every single card. And that's one of the things I've learned. Like, I was taking an inventory. I'm like, oh, I got like 10 Smeargles. The fact is, I'm now out of stock on Smeargles. The way it works is people do buy cards. There's a buyer for every card. And that's a wonderful thing about having this hobby, is that there's collectors who are always adding. And they're not going to spend big money. They're value collectors. You're not going to get a huge amount of profit from a card like that, but they exist. And don't worry about taking in lots of inventory, because inventory does move. It just takes time. The most valuable thing in the Pokemon collecting hobby. And the last thing is, you can give lots of advice, but people don't have to listen to it. And that's part of this video. You can hear everything I've learned, but you don't have to listen. You can go and make the same mistakes. I have people who purchase and openers, and some openers, I can see that they're kind of doing it as a gambling habit. And you'll tell them, buy singles, open for fun, buy singles, and they're not listening. Then you have openers who will open, enjoy, trade in their singles, and buy singles. You're going to have different advice, and it's going to work for some people and not for others. And sometimes you lose a customer by giving them advice. Don't buy so many packs to open. Sometimes the customer be okay with that advice and they'll understand, okay. And I know that I've lost some people, some big customers, because I've pushed back on their buying habits, which it happens. So you're going to give advice. Not all the time is that advice going to be received well. You're going to give advice about products, purchases, and unfortunately, it's going to go against you as a business, your goals. But you got to do what's right for you, and that's an important thing. The last thing that I'll state: do what's right for you. If you're going to work with your son, your daughter, go slow. Do not incur debt, because one of the things that does happen, I guess this is the last thing, is one of the things that does happen is you're going to have to rob Peter to pay Paul, which means you'll have to buy a lot of product from distribution or buy a collection, and then all of a sudden you will have to pay for it. And the way you pay for it is clearing out something that you thought had more value. So sometimes you're selling things that you didn't want to sell at that cheap because you bought stuff that you needed to buy, because the way Pokemon goes is it's always going. It's always continuing. It's a continuous cycle. You got to enjoy it. Thanks for listening. What do you guys think about these things? If you like this type of video, hit the like, hit the subscribe, etc. If you like Pokemon pack opening with me and my son, hit the like and subscribe as well, because we do that too. This is our journey. This is what we're doing. Appreciate it.